we have finally gotten the update that shows us who is going to be on the Nefer and Furina banners. So we got the 4 stars here. Collei, who they just keep pushing for some reason this version, because we're getting a free Collei again, even after the free one we get from Sumeru. Xingqiu and Yaoyao, so we'll definitely talk about them. As well as the weapons, with the Reliquary of Truth and Splendor of Tranquil Honors. Let's see. Ooh, okay. This is a very interesting weapon banner. So let's talk about the characters first. I've gone over Furina and Nefer, so I won't spend a lot of time on them. Nefer, pretty good on-field damage dealer, especially if you have Lauma. Furina, she is really, really nice as well. So yeah, depending on your situation, you may want to go for one, but I think for a lot of people, if they don't have Furina, she's a better choice. Unless you're someone who is really concerned about the endgame of Nod Cry and want to focus more on lunar teams and maybe not go for Furina and say for someone like Columbina instead. We still don't know what Columbina is going to do. It's pretty evident that she's going to be a Hydro character though, and I think she's going to be some sort of support, some sort of Archon replacement for this patch cycle, but we don't know. So that's a gamble you may or may not want to take. But instead of speculating, let's talk about the 4 stars and how actually valuable or not valuable they are for your account. So let's just talk about Collei. Not great. Everyone already gets her for free. We're getting another version of her for free in the next patch, so she's kind of a dud here. So you don't really want to see a lot of Collei if you're wishing. Xingqiu and Yaoyao, very interesting. Xingqiu, one of the best 4 stars in the game, incredibly useful. Despite the fact that he is on Nefer's banner, he actually doesn't line up perfectly well with her because she has her 2 skill charges, each of which has a 9-second cooldown, so her rotations are about 18 seconds unless you do the dash canceling and optimized combos, and then you can do them much shorter. So even at her non-animation cancel, non-optimized combos, she's still on field for less time than Xingqiu's skill takes to refresh. So that makes it kind of awkward to use him because you never get like the full rotation with him, because you can't use his skill to recharge him, and then his burst doesn't last as long as his skill cooldown is. So it puts you in a very odd spot where you get one full rotation with Xingqiu, and then you get like half of a rotation with him, and then your skill's not up, and then it just kind of snowballs from there. So using him with Nefer is not the greatest idea, but it'll work if you need a good Hydro character. The better thing to do is honestly just run Nefer with Ino. She needs Ascendant Gleam anyways, so if you don't have Lauma, you're pretty much going to want to do that no matter what. And Ino has a shorter cooldown, and her energy cost is only 50, whereas Xingqiu's is 80. So big difference in the amount of energy recharge you need to build as well. As far as how good Xingqiu is for your account, extremely useful. And pretty much all of his constellations are pretty good. His C2 and his C6 are the best. So if you get either one of those, just be very, very happy. And if you do get Xingqiu at C6 on this banner because you're wishing, that means that you have another character that you can select from Lantern Rite in Liyue, which will be coming up in the next few versions. Then we've got Yaoyao, who is a great 4-star healer and a really nice support that can use a lot of different support sets. You can put her on Deepwood for more Dendro damage for your team. You can put her on Instructors because she doesn't really have a lot of high requirements for her own stats. She pretty much wants HP, and then she doesn't even really need energy recharge unless you want to build her on like a Nilu team where you want to use her burst to apply a lot of Hydro or a lot of Dendro to Hydro very quickly. And beyond that, she's like doesn't really need anything else. If you put her on Favonius, you can give her a little bit of crit rate to help the energy for your team. But you can also give her the Black Tassels, which is a 3-star HP spear, and just make her heal even more. So very, very free to play friendly. Very, very nice character to have. Her constellations are kind of nice, but they don't really do too much for her. She's pretty much as good as she gets at C0, and her constellations are basically just slight improvements. They're not really that game breaking for her. Overall, this banner is pretty solid. If you were a newer player or someone who is considering someone like Furina, I think these banners are pretty good because you can do Yaoyao and Furina together. You get Xingqiu for another Hydro, and then if you have Kuki Shinobu, or you could even use someone like Lisa on field, then you have like a little kind of mini faux Hyper Bloom-esque team already. but just having these 3 characters on your account is just really, really nice. And if you are considering Nefer, while these characters don't exactly work the best with her, they aren't terrible for her either. You basically would pair her with Aino, and then you could use Xingqiu for more hydro application if you wanted, or you could use someone else, and then you could use Yaoyao for healing and give her something like the instructor set to give Nefer a little bit more EM. And there has been word that Nefer's EM has been nerfed a little bit, so she actually does less damage now right before she releases, which is pretty scummy on Hoyo's part. So if you were considering Nefer but don't know how strong she's going to be, she's still pretty good, but she does a little bit less damage now because they nerfed the amount of EM that she gets, so that's kind of lame. Anyways, decent character banner. Let's talk about the weapon banner now, because Nefer's weapon is really, really good for her, and it's good for a lot of other characters too. It's got low base attack, 542 at 90, and then 88 crit damage. The passive gives you an additional 8% crit rate, gives you extra 80 EM, and then extra crit damage, I believe, when you trigger Lunar Bloom. So extremely good for her, and it can work on a lot of other characters too. It can work decently well on Mualani, because you get the extra crit rate, which makes you even more in danger of overcapping on crit rate with Mualani. But the 88 crit damage is super nice, and the 80 EM is actually a big boost to her as well. So pretty much any Catalyst character that doesn't care about attack, wants a lot of crit damage and EM, this is pretty nice for them, even if you're never running Lunar Bloom. The unfortunate thing is this doesn't count if a team member triggers Lunar Bloom. The wielder, the person equipping it, has to trigger Lunar Bloom, so it's kind of a downfall. Otherwise, it could be super nice on someone like Nouvelette, but alas, it's basically just a crit stat stick for someone like him. Then we have Splendor of Tranquil Waters. This weapon is decent for Furina, but it's really a giant trap because it doesn't help her energy recharge requirements, which are a big thing for her. So the main reason you use Furina is for her elemental burst, and you need the energy to make sure that it's up basically on cooldown. You have about 3 seconds after the cooldown comes up when you want to use it again, because her burst lasts longer than the cooldown, but you definitely want to have enough energy for that, and this weapon doesn't help her. It just gives her some more crit damage, which is nice, but it doesn't solve one of the main issues with her kit that you have to solve if you want to use her effectively. 5 stars, really good for Nefer, okay for Furina, and the 4 stars though are really interesting. We got Fav Warbow, really good all around. Fav weapons are super useful, so really good there. We have and then we've got all 3 of the new Luna weapons, which I thought they were going to split into other banners, but they're putting them all on this one. So the Moonweaver's Dawn is the sword here that we can get from a quest. It's not particularly great. You wouldn't really want to see this sword a lot. There's not too many characters that can really use it. However, the Dawning Frost and the Spear are actually really good. The Sacrificer's Staff and Dawning Frost are really nice. Dawning Frost is a super good weapon for Nefer, but the chance of R5ing this is much, much, much lower than just getting her signature weapon. So don't go for this trying to R5 it. And then this spear is also really nice because it's got a very high base attack, and then it gives you a little bit of crit rate even though it's very low. So actually a pretty solid spear. At level 90 it gives you 620 base attack, which is higher than most 5-star weapons, and it gives you 9 crit rate, which is fairly low. So this spear is a very, very nice a DPS spear, but don't try to R5 it again because it's going to take way too many primogems to do that. And then we have the bell, which is one of the worst weapons in the game. It might actually be the worst weapon in the game, which is a very, very big disappointment because it's also one of my favorite designed weapons in the game. I love how it has the horloge clock just right in the middle. Yeah, interesting weapon banner. Honestly, not too bad. If you were considering going for Nefer's weapon, at least 3 of the 5 weapons here are pretty good, being the Fav Bow, the Dawning Frost Catalyst, and the new Spear, the Sacrificer's Staff. The sword's it's just kind of okay. There's not really anyone who really wants it that much, and then the bell is just trash. So decent weapon banner to go for if you were considering Nefer's weapon. If you wanted to go for Furina's weapon, I would just say either hold off and give her Favonius or the Nodcry craftable sword and call it a day. I wouldn't use your primogems on this. I'd save them for other characters coming out, because we still have Columbina and Varka and Durin, and then there's all the other characters like Yehoda that people may really want, and then like Alice and Nicole, and we've got a whole lot of characters coming down the line. So if you wanted a lot of them, I don't think I'd use your primogems on this weapon banner unless you were going for Nefer, because her catalyst plus this one plus Fav plus like some of the other weapons kind of makes sense. They're pretty nice for your account overall. Decent-ish banners. I think if you're a newer player, they're a lot better than if you're a veteran player trying to get them on like a rerun because you didn't get Furina or something like that before. And if you are a more veteran player and just wishing for someone like Nefer, you're basically just getting her for it's all about her. Like the 4 stars here don't help you that much. You probably already have C6 Xingqiu and at least one copy of Yaoyao if you've been playing for a while. They could have been a whole lot worse, so I'm glad they're not terrible. But for anyone who is wishing, I wish you the best of luck, and I hope that someone like Nefer or Furina fulfills all of your dreams. I'm just really sad that they nerfed Nefer just a little bit pre-launch. Very, very scummy of Hoyo.